Close your eyes for a moment. Take one slow breath. Now open them and look at the 4 shadow animals in front of you. Don't analyze them. Don't choose the one you think is the strongest, the smartest, or the most beautiful. Simply notice which one caught your attention first. Your first instinct is often quieter than your thoughts, but it is also more honest. Every person carries a hidden side within them, a side that rarely speaks, yet quietly shapes the choices they make, the people they trust, and the path they continue to walk. Sometimes that hidden side appears through symbols. Tonight, those symbols take the form of 4 shadow animals. Each one represents a different inner nature. None of them are good or bad. None of them are better than the others. They simply reflect different strengths, different fears, and different ways of moving through life. If you've already made your choice, stay with it. Don't change your answer. As we explore each shadow animal, listen carefully. You may discover something you already knew about yourself, but never had the words to explain. Let's begin with the first shadow animal, Shadow Wolf. If you chose the Shadow Wolf, you may be someone who trusts your instincts more than your words. You notice things that other people overlook, a change in someone's voice, a hesitation before they answer, or a feeling that something isn't quite right. While others search for proof, you often sense the truth long before it becomes obvious. That ability can be a gift, but it can also become exhausting. When you spend too much time watching everything around you, you begin to carry responsibilities that were never yours to carry. People often assume the wolf is fearless. In reality, the wolf survives because it pays attention. It doesn't waste energy proving itself. It watches, it waits, and when the moment is right, it moves with confidence instead of urgency. You may have spent part of your life feeling misunderstood, not because you couldn't connect with people, but because very few people seemed willing to understand the quieter parts of you. Over time, you may have learned to rely on yourself instead of expecting others to always be there. That independence became one of your greatest strengths, but sometimes it also became your shield. The shadow side of the wolf appears when self-protection slowly becomes isolation. You tell yourself that you're simply more comfortable alone. Sometimes that's true, but sometimes you've just become so used to carrying everything by yourself that asking for support no longer feels natural. The wolf also reminds us that loyalty is valuable, but only when it's shared. Staying loyal to people who continually ignore your worth isn't strength. It's a habit that quietly drains your energy. If this wolf was your first choice, perhaps your life isn't asking you to become stronger. Perhaps it's asking you to trust yourself a little more. The instincts you've been questioning may already be pointing you in the right direction. The path ahead doesn't need more certainty. It may only need one honest step. Shadow Raven. If the Shadow Raven was the one that called you, your mind may naturally search beneath the surface of everything. You rarely accept the first explanation you're given. Instead, you notice what wasn't said, what was avoided, and what quietly disappeared from the conversation. While many people focus on appearances, you tend to pay attention to patterns. The raven has long been connected with mystery, not because it creates secrets, but because it isn't afraid to face them. It flies into places where others refuse to look. It reminds us that truth is often hidden behind comfort, habit, or fear. You may have gone through experiences that changed the way you see people. Perhaps you trusted too easily once, only to discover that words and intentions don't always match. Since then, you've become more careful. You observe before you believe. You listen before you speak. Some people mistake that silence for distance, but in reality, you're simply making sure your trust is deserved. Your greatest strength is perception. You can often recognize change before anyone else notices it. You sense when a relationship is fading, when an opportunity is approaching, or when someone is pretending to be something they are not. This awareness protects you, but it can also become a burden if you begin to expect hidden motives everywhere you look. The shadow side of the raven appears when caution slowly becomes suspicion. If every door looks dangerous, you may stop opening doors that could have led to something meaningful. Wisdom doesn't come from doubting everything. It comes from knowing when to question and when to let yourself move forward. If you chose this raven, life may be reminding you that seeing the truth is only the first step. The second step is deciding what to do with it. Some truths ask you to walk away, others ask you to forgive, and a few simply ask you to stop carrying what no longer belongs to you. The raven doesn't stay in darkness forever. It only enters the darkness long enough to find the way out. Shadow stag. If the shadow stag was the one that called you, there is a quiet strength within you that doesn't need attention to exist. You may not be the loudest person in the room, but your presence has a way of changing the atmosphere without saying very much. People often underestimate you at first, then slowly realize there's far more beneath the surface than they expected. The stag has always represented dignity, patience, and inner authority. It doesn't compete for dominance. It simply stands where it belongs. That is its power. You may spend a great deal of your life trying to meet expectations, your own or those placed on you by others. You've learned responsibility, persistence, and self-control, but somewhere along the way, you may have forgotten that constantly carrying weight isn't the same as living with purpose. One of your greatest gifts is endurance. You can survive situations that would exhaust many people. You keep moving when others give up. You adapt quietly instead of complaining. Yet endurance has a hidden cost. Sometimes you continue carrying burdens long after they're no longer yours to carry. The glowing antlers of the shadow stag symbolize awareness growing through experience. Every challenge you've faced has shaped your judgment. Every disappointment has refined your character. The wisdom you carry wasn't inherited, it was earned. But wisdom can also become isolation. You may believe that asking for help is weakness, or that nobody could truly understand what you've been through. That belief slowly builds invisible walls around you. Strength is valuable, but connection is just as important. If this stag found you today, it may be asking one simple question. What are you still carrying that no longer belongs on your shoulders? Not every responsibility is yours. Not every battle deserves your energy. Sometimes real courage isn't proving how much you can endure. Sometimes it's choosing what you're finally willing to leave behind. The shadow stag never lowers its head because of fear. It lowers its head only when it's time to walk forward with quiet confidence, leaving the old forest behind and entering a new one. Shadow Panther. If the shadow panther was the one that drew your attention first, You may possess a kind of strength that doesn't need to announce itself. You rarely feel the need to prove who you are. Instead, you prefer to let your actions speak long before your words do. The panther moves differently from most predators. It doesn't rush. It doesn't chase every opportunity. It waits. It observes. And when the moment is right, it acts with complete commitment. Perhaps you've noticed the same pattern in your own life. You don't make important decisions lightly. You think carefully. You watch. You learn. And once you've made up your mind, it's incredibly difficult for anyone to change your direction. People often misunderstand quiet confidence. Some mistake it for distance. Others mistake it for pride. But true confidence rarely needs attention. It simply knows who it is. There is, however, another side to the panther. Because it spends so much time protecting itself, it can become difficult to let others get close. Not because trust is impossible, but because trust feels expensive. You may have learned, through experience, that not everyone deserves access to your inner world. So you built strong boundaries. Those boundaries protected you, but over time, they may also have begun protecting you from the very connections you still hope to find. The shadow panther asks an important question. Are your boundaries still protecting your peace, or have they quietly become walls that keep life out? There is a difference. A boundary allows the right people to enter. A wall keeps everyone away. The strongest people aren't those who never become vulnerable. They're the ones who know exactly when vulnerability is worth the risk. Look into the panther's eyes. They don't search for approval. They don't search for permission. They simply remain focused. Perhaps that's the message this shadow animal brings. Stop measuring your worth through other people's opinions. Stop waiting for someone else to confirm what you've already begun to understand about yourself. Confidence isn't something that suddenly appears. It's built every time you keep a promise to yourself, every time you choose honesty over comfort, every time you continue walking, even when nobody is watching. Perhaps the panther found you today, not because you're meant to become someone different, but because you're finally ready to trust the person you've already become. Now you've met all four shadow animals: the shadow wolf, the shadow raven, the shadow stag, and the shadow panther. Perhaps one of them immediately felt familiar, or perhaps you recognized pieces of yourself in more than one. That isn't unusual. Human beings are never just one thing. We're not only brave, we're not only cautious, we're not only patient, we're not only strong. We're a collection of experiences, memories, beliefs, and choices that continue changing throughout our lives. These shadow animals were never meant to define your personality. They were never meant to place you inside a box. Instead, they offer a different perspective, a chance to notice qualities that may already exist within you, but are often hidden beneath daily routines, responsibilities, and expectations. Perhaps the word shadow makes people uncomfortable. It sounds dark. It sounds mysterious. But a shadow isn't always something negative. A shadow simply represents the part of ourselves that isn't fully seen. Sometimes our greatest strengths remain in the shadows, not because they don't exist, but because we've never given ourselves permission to recognize them. The quiet courage that carried you through difficult seasons, the wisdom you gained from disappointment, the compassion that grew from your own pain, the resilience that appeared long before you realized it was there. Those qualities rarely ask for attention, yet they shape your life every single day. Maybe that's why symbols have remained with humanity for thousands of years. Not because they predict our future, but because they help us understand our present. They don't tell us who we must become. They simply remind us of who we already are. So before you leave, I'd like you to imagine something. If your shadow animal quietly walked beside you tomorrow, what would it encourage you to do? Would the wolf remind you to trust your instincts? Would the raven ask you to face an uncomfortable truth? Would the stag encourage you to stop carrying what no longer belongs to you? Or would the panther remind you that your quiet strength has always been enough? Whatever your answer is, don't rush past it. Sometimes, one honest question can change the direction of an entire life. If this reflection resonated with you, I'd love to know. Which shadow animal called you first? And after hearing every story, would you still choose the same one? Leave your answer in the comments. You may discover that someone else has been walking beside the very same shadow. Thank you for spending these quiet moments with me. Until we meet again, keep listening to your inner whisper.